Chris? Welcome to the December 14th, 2023 Conservation Commission meeting. We'll get underway and start with the pledge of allegiance. Roll call too. Okay, Sam Kenny. Here. Tom Jones. Here. Jessica Cohn. Paul Lawson. Here. Leanne Tyson. Here. Brian Ward. Here. Alan Snyder. Here. Beth Bowman. Yes. Liz Sharple. Here. So first I'd like to welcome Jessica. She's our new alternate. Cool. You want to say, take a minute and just say something about yourself?
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Jessica.
Jessica.
Yeah, my name is Jessica. I live in the Mills. I've been there about a year and a half, so really new to the area in New Hampshire. I live in Massachusetts born. Conservation has been a big part of my life. My dad is very active on South Shore, Massachusetts with conservation and using building groups and all those things. I grew up with it. I'm excited to contribute as much as I can. I have a marketing background, so hopefully that helps a little bit with things that we're doing, initiatives, and I'm excited to be here.
Great, awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So we still have two full members vacant, so I think why don't I appoint Tom, Cole, and you two for voting members tonight? Okay, any public comment? No public here? Public remotely, anything? So we'll move on to the last semester agenda. Does anybody Okay, any edits to the November 9th, 2023 meeting minutes? There were the minutes and then there was the attachments which have various PowerPoint handouts. I didn't have any edits. Motion to approve as written.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendments as written.
Thank you, Sam. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Jeff is abstaining. Okay. All right. Financial summary was in your packet. So not a lot happened last month. So our conservation fund balance is $134,536.80. Chapter. We have Autumn from Stratford Regional Planning Commission, and Bart is here as well.
Hello everyone, thanks for having me here again. I'm excited to chat about where we're going with the master plan. And I do have some more handouts for you all. natural resource inventories. We don't have maps for you tonight. Our core mapper is on his 4th round, so he's a little bit backed up.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So I just wanted to bring up the task outline again and do a little check-in of where we're at and what we've completed so far. So the first sort of task here is pretty much done. We've completed our kickoff last month. We established our check-ins at your monthly meetings. So you'll be seeing me from now until May every month. And in progress right now, we're still reviewing current progress, and that will continue as we develop goals and actions towards the end of the plan. We're reviewing existing plans and data to add to the maps, which we'll talk about more with that map list that I gave you. And we are in the midst of the community survey, which I must say is going incredibly well thus far. So that's really exciting. And then today, after this meeting, we'll start developing the first draft of the actual content, getting into updating the data and recommendations from the last plan, and starting to plan for a goal-setting workshop with you all, hopefully next month. So that is where we're at right now. And then this next slide kind of lays out the same thing, but in timeline version. So today we're again going to go over the progress since the last plan quickly, short map revisions update, and discussion on where this chapter of the plan is going, continuing to update the survey and promote that, and reviewing a potential chapter outline we'll probably do next month. I'm going to give you guys an update on where we're looking at for the logos and branding, and then prepping for that workshop next month. And then in January, we'll have the goal setting workshop, and that will be with you all, not with the general public yet. Doing another survey results update, pending when we decide to end mid-January and January, depending on how many responses we have by mid-January. Reviewing the first draft of the narrative, which will be a light version with the holidays, but and then probably won't have our final map set review, considering you don't have maps in front of you right now, so that'll probably push out till February. But I'll keep updating you every time I come where we're at and where we're going. So I took the spreadsheet that Ellen had sent over with.
Can I, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
oh, yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead.
just, can we, I think it would be helpful to do, can you do a little recap of the master plan? You're gonna do that later, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. I'm
Okay.
gonna recap your discussion last night, and you're welcome to jump in on that. Yeah. So yeah, I took that spreadsheet and I highlighted the recommendations that, based on your feedback, probably need some verbiage revisions, but the priorities seem like they want to be maintained. And then in orange are the recommendations that probably require a little more discussion to either remove, research, or redirect. So I'll open the spreadsheet and hopefully this works all right. There it goes. Just open. Huh? Yeah. Bear with me as I reshare the screen. Are we not on Zoom? Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. So I'll go quickly one by one here and then. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. You know how this goes. All right, so I think we'll start with the yellows. These are the ones that I think, based on your comments, we'll probably want to keep for the most part, and maybe do a little bit of rewording. This first one here is to maintain your kiosks at those key conservation areas. And my thought for this one was question 25 on the survey lists out different conservation areas, and there's a couple of additional ones that are not on this list. So I think based on the response to that question, that'll probably give us a good idea of what this recommendation could turn into. Oh goodness. Sorry, I'm not used to this trackpad. Okay. And the next one is to provide information on Channel 13. And it seems like that is probably a priority you'd like to maintain. And as I'm going through this, feel free to just blurt out if you want to stop and make a comment. The next one is annual monitoring visits to town-owned conservation lands and conservation easements. And it looks like there's some, probably a breakdown needed to separate out into who are the landowners and who is doing that monitoring. So this would probably turn into a couple of different recommendations. The next one is to review town ordinances that relate to conservation lands and to make sure the ordinances are consistent. And it looks like that's probably ongoing and potential for an intern project there. This is a new one that it seems like we would like to add, to develop a land use plan with trail opportunity, access, and combining into a Fallett's Brook, one Fallett's Brook conservation area for all of the town-owned Fallett's Brook properties. The next one to changing this one to assessing opportunity for trail connectivity, which I know something y'all have been working on. And then again, continuing this one with the Pathways for People in Nature initiative, implementing that trail connectivity. This one, another revision. It looks like there are some different folks maintaining open fields, so perhaps adding some clarity to that one. This one is a discuss further action, reaffirming your commitment to the Land Trust Alliance standard. So perhaps there's a different standard or guideline that we might like to consider, and that's certainly something that we can look into behind the scenes. Next is hosting educational workshops on conservation topics and doing field trips. Looks like you guys are doing that right now, so continuing to do that sounds great. This one is another research and update. Collaborating with Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership on implementing the Natural Resource Management Plan for Tuttle Swamp Watershed. Unsure of the status of the Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership, so that's something we'll have to look into and update. So that was your first section of recommendations. Before I move on, does anyone have any comments they'd like to make? And we can discuss this further once I actually go in and start doing revisions and have our goal setting workshop, but anything you want to make sure I know?
probably need to take it home and people can look at it after.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Next is something Ellen was just talking about, the land use change tax and how much is being contributed to the conservation fund, and perhaps how we can increase that to 100%. Next is tax lien properties to enhance existing network of conservation lands. Something we probably will want to rephrase the verbiage a little bit. And look at abutting properties. Next is designating the town-owned properties on Lena Lane as a conservation area. This is something that looks like we might just need to find some documenting information on, and then potentially rewording to consolidate parcels, evaluating boundaries, and doing a natural resource inventory for those properties.
That on number 19, so Bart and I participated in a webinar on Friday. The Connect and Protect, remember that? That's that technical assistance group. And they had a webinar and had about 6 communities present different things they're doing around conservation in the coastal watershed. So a couple towns, particularly Rochester, they just updated, they have a new priority list, looks pretty detailed, I guess a checklist to guide how they should consider priority conservation lands in Rochester, and it's got a pretty detailed associated notes with it. And so I don't know if that was in our list of resources we got, but I think we should add that to develop a checklist, and we already have probably a really good example that we could use. Because we haven't really done that since we had the open space bond back in 2000, so it's time to update that as part of this process. Does that make sense?
That's a great note, and Lynn Vaccaro, who I'm assuming was on that webinar, she has mentioned that they're willing to provide some technical assistance as we do this, so I'll definitely reach out and ask if that's something that they're willing to do. And we can complete it, so it doesn't even have to be a recommendation. Great. Next is working with a conservation partner to place easements on existing town-owned land that is managed as conservation property but not actually protected. So this is something that looks like we might want to discuss a little bit further and think about.
Just for FYI, so an example of that would be Paulsburg properties, except for Piscasset Blaisdell, because none of those other properties are conserved. Carolyn Drive one sort of, and the Waterworks sort of, but it's something I'm not sure. It used to be they were doing that. You could do it at match, so you get the value of that. You couldn't use it on it. But anyway, it's just something to put in there as a placeholder, but just so people know what that's talking about.
The next two are both keep and continue, collaborating with other conservation organizations like Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership and SELT. I know there are probably several others that we could list here, so that's great. And then next is continuing to leverage town conservation funds for land protection projects and apply those funds to state and federal grant programs. Great one to continue, would recommend. And the next one is research and update again. Reserving $500,000 of the $2 million land acquisition bond for the acquisition of athletic fields for public and school use. So it looks like this one we might want to remove, but if there's leftover money, figuring out what to potentially do with that. Is that an accurate characterization?
Yeah, apparently there's still money in that fund, but I have not seen whose authority has authority to spend it or what the remaining purpose is.
Do you have any knowledge of that, Bart? Okay.
Yeah, the last I know that we even looked into utilizing that was when they purchased carpenters, and the town purchased carpenters. the old greenhouse there on 152, and I thought some of the money for that came out of the open
Could,
space.
because there was some purpose, it was,
Yeah.
the bond was.
School
But if
purposes
it's
as
just
well.
sitting there, it'd be good to know what's.
Yeah, what's there,
What's
who
there
has in
and-
control of it, yes.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
time frame
so-
would just be a good spot to look, if you're looking for
Yeah.
like minutes or something, as to what we were.
Great
There's
note.
a open space commission that oversaw it, it was all pulled into the conservation commission, so.
How long ago was that bonded?
That was what, 2003?
And do you know what year the Open Space Commission was, why that happened, was dissolved?
Didn't plan. Somewhere around it, but I don't remember.
No worries. No worries
Before
at all.
2010.
What, 2010?
Yeah, it was prior to 2010. That wasn't there.
Good enough for me.
Conservation Commission.
No. So these things on the left were in the 2009 open space plan, so this is all old
Yeah,
stuff.
yep.
Trying to see if it's updated or if it's no longer valid.
Back when we looked at it before, there was like $150,000 in it or so, give or take $50,000.
It's a significant amount regardless. Okay, great. Yeah, definitely look into that one more. Okay, land use planning. The first one is to adopt the open space plan as part of the master plan. I think we're all on board to do that, hopefully, by the end of this process. And then the next one is to develop a town record-keeping system to accurately and efficiently track lands and additions to the network of conservation lands. And Ellen and I will get together on researching that one.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I just said that Ellen and I would get together to research that one. Next is to update existing and implement new land use planning tools to provide additional protection to aquifers and wellhead protection area. So that's something that I will dig into the zoning ordinance and research where we're at and where we can go. Next is to require open space design development for residential subdivisions. It looks like that's something that most subdivisions are doing now, so that's great. Next is to implement stormwater management practices and to prevent and minimize runoff that contains contaminants and causes erosion. So continue that.
We've done a ton of stormwater stuff.
Yeah, it was a recent ordinance update, yeah. Next is to implement the wetland mitigation projects in Newmarket as identified in the 2003 report. Looks like this one we want to remove. So potentially digging into that one more. Next, to evaluate salt marshes and assess for a designation as prime wetlands. So this one will probably reword to protect salt marsh and allow for marsh migration. We'll have some fun maps to assist with that. And then the last one here is to maintain involvement in committees related to the Lamprey, like the advisory committee and the Lamprey River and Stream Flow Study Committee. We'll modify that one as needed. And then these ones at the bottom here were notes. So this is just some research that I'll have to do behind the scenes, figuring out when the Open Space Commission completed its work, which was the question that I just asked. So yes, that's on the research tab. And then this one was a note about changing the categories in this outline. And so with the structure of the other master plan chapters, we'll end up developing an implementation guide for all of them, where the recommendations will sit in each chapter, but then at the end we'll have additional information like which funding sources apply to these different recommendations, who are potential partners, timeline, priority, all those other things. And we'll talk about that later on. And yes, additional spreadsheets that Ellen and I will coordinate on getting together. So So that is the update on progress towards implementing these recommendations. It looks like you guys completed a lot since this last update. So congratulations on that. You're doing great. And I'm going to pull up my slideshow again. Alright, so any notes before I move on to the next agenda item? You can ignore this slide because I don't have maps for you to mark up right now. But I did pass out a list of map layers that we typically use for an NRI, and the reason that I bring this up is because I know that there was a discussion last night at the subcommittee on potentially restructuring some of the chapters to include more natural resources rather than just open space. So I don't know if either of you want to touch on that part of the discussion.
Good evening, Brian McDonough, Planning Director. So last night at the subcommittee meeting, there was a good discussion on how does the committee move forward, and what they ended up recommending is going back to the planning board to understand what a few key questions, like what chapters are relevant. Is there opportunities to consolidate? So the idea is not to do all this work and then come back to the plan board and they be counterproductive and they rearrange it. So the subcommittee just wanted to understand what the plan board is thinking and get on the same page. So part of the discussion was reorganizing right now. So specifically for conservation purposes, so having the natural resources, water resources, and open space all tied into one chapter. So kind of makes sense because they all touch upon each other. So I think we're going to go to that planning board meeting, which we're going to schedule next month, with that approach and see if they agree with that. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Alan, to that. That kind of sums it up.
Yeah, just to, so there, so there's multiple chapters in the master plan, some new ones, I guess, for this revision, and some that are going away, and then there's these, it's going to be like 4 teams, and there'll be different chapters under each team, and so there'll be members of the master planning committee, and then people from other committees. And so team 2 is these 3, open space, natural resources, and water. And we're that team, essentially. So the Conservation Commission, we will talk every month about all those concepts, and then we can bring in people like, if we want to bring in like Sean, the water department, or Lindsay from engineering, like different people that might give us a little more insight about some of the features and things that they oversee or talk about, and we can bring other experts in too. So that made a lot of sense to us last night. And the other thing that we talked about was some chapters, rather than being chapters, some things might be like step down or themes. And so the riverfront, I guess we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more later, but like the downtown riverfront will be like a theme, like a step down or a theme, and so it will cover lots of different aspects of different chapters. So that's what we brainstormed last night, and that's what we'll go back to the planning board to see if you guys agree with this, so that then we can all move forward.
Right.
It might also help to touch on the funding, just to re-clarify that. Because one of the reasons I suggested the water, because the funding for our whole thing is source water protection money, which is water, drinking water. So it made sense for us to talk about water and other natural resources along with open space.
Yeah,
Correct?
exactly. So specifically, the open space chapter is grant funded by DES, both a specific aim at water resource protection. And that has a certain timeline. The other funding sources, one's from Invest New Hampshire. That'll be specifically towards the housing chapter. And the one after that is Coastal Resiliency, which is our downtown riverfront one. So based on that knowledge and discussion and looking at the different chapters that are being proposed, the subcommittee thought it made sense that putting all 3 of those water resources, natural resources, and open space together, and then having, as Alan mentioned, the Conservation Commission as that work group. So, and there's different timelines too that are driving the development of these chapters. For the open space is the deliverables due in May, and the housing in July, end of June, July, and then those are the two, and that's what we're focusing on now, as you know, through the survey. So, and then also in between, we're trying to, because typically start with a visioning process. But since there's money that needs to be spent at a certain time, we're going to do these two, housing, open space, and then the visioning thereafter, and then subsequent chapters. But again, we're still at the point of, what will this master plan look like from the chapter's perspective? So that's why we're going back to the planning board to get guidance from them, so the subcommittee can get busy. So,
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
Sort of make sense?
That list was was part of the open space chapter, right?
Right.
So will other things get added to that list from these other two chapters?
That's ours. I
Yes.
think so, right?
yes, if it were to be consolidated
Yeah.
under one chapter, those three elements. Yep, and then you can probably do it in a way where it makes sense.
Yeah.
As you
Break
do.
up ahead of you.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Do we want to go back to the maps, talking about the maps? So I have a question about the maps, because there's, 7 or 8 that Jackson's working on that we looked at before?
Yeah, whatever's in the current plan is,
Right.
yeah.
2 questions, I guess.
Sure.
One is, will there be lots of other maps in the master plan, or are we the only one that are going to do maps?
There will be maps to accompany essentially every chapter. And so I'm glad that we talked about the chapters merging a little bit. Obviously, that's still in flux a little bit until we hear back from the planning board. But that is why I wanted to provide you a list of other layers, because I think there's a lot of potential for more maps with the water resources. And once we get into the downtown riverfront, that will be a big undertaking and consider lots of other things like transportation and infrastructure and things of that nature. So there's a lot of things we can do. And yeah, options are limitless. So
Well, a lot of the stuff on this list that you handed out tonight is already on
Right.
on those maps, and so
Right.
it could be how they're reconfigured or how they're overlaid.
right, yes.
But until we see those back again, do we need to look at this before we see those back again, or what would be the
No,
best process?
I just wanted to give you this to start thinking about.
Okay.
Once I get those maps from Jackson, and then to you next week, you can have this and sort of
Okay.
brainstorm
Great.
potentially some co-occurrences of those layers and what you might like to see.
Okay.
And also thinking about the connect to protect opportunity and that sort of resource prioritization. We can think about how we might display that as a map as well.
Like a co-occurrence,
Yeah.
yeah, another co-occurrence, refine that one.
Yeah.
I do like, so I was just talking to somebody at the Nature Conservancy today about adding the last category there is the salt marsh migration, which is a data set that I think would be really good to show on our wetlands maps. So it shows, because we have a lot of salt marsh on Great Bay, and it shows where over the sea level rise, where is the potential for salt marsh to migrate, which is a really important ecological consideration now around Great Bay. Any other thoughts about maps? So we're not going to see the draft back until when?
So Jackson has promised to get them early next week done.
Okay,
So
so before- okay.
you'll have them before the holidays, and then we'll have this discussion in January that
Okay.
we're hoping to have today. And we'll really start writing on the maps and thinking about drafts and all of that. So yeah, nothing to worry about immediately until you hear back from us.
Okay.
Storm surge, yeah.
I think I would advocate for wellhead protection areas to be included, not as an optional, especially if water resources is migrating into a potential merged chapter. Those areas are kind of essential to know and identify, and there's already restrictions about what can be done with them.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I'll tell you, we will definitely include a map because DES would love to see
Yeah.
that for source.
I think they're already on there, but we should check to make sure.
Yeah, I believe so.
and maybe they're
I
already,
think the aquifers and the wellhead protection, it's all there.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's important.
Any other immediate thoughts or comments before we move on? Seeing none. Okay.
We don't have a lot of farms left.
We say farms.
A lot of farm opportunity, fortunately.
There is a really interesting resource, I'm not sure if anyone's seen it, from the American Farmland Trust, Farms Under Threat, where they mapped out sort of development potentials for different scenarios and the best sort of farmland and protection options. So we're hoping to get that data set into our newest data snapshot at SRPC this year. So if we can, I think that would be really cool to think about as well. It's American Farmland Trust. All right, so this is going to be the fun part. We get to look at the survey results a little bit.
One other thing, I think we have it, but the culvert data, the stream crossing data from the aquatic mapper, I think we want to somehow integrate that in as well.
I think that'd be a great idea.
You're familiar with the aquatic mapper,
Yep.
David? Yeah. I can't remember if I don't think it's already on there, but I know we want to incorporate that somehow.
Are you thinking that would show conditions?
I don't know,
Existing.
I mean, I think it's part of what you had talked about, writing up a report for what does all that data say and where are the priority spots,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah,
It could be just a couple paragraphs and then a map.
yeah. Okay, yeah, let's touch on that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and when we go over the maps, I'll definitely want to think about things like that, like how much of an explanation does this map require versus that, and how do we want to display that information, because those
There's a
maps-
lot of information.
There's a lot of information, it does
Yeah.
not always come easily, just looking at it,
Yeah,
certainly.
yeah, I think it's a vulnerability issue, and you know, maybe it's the current vulnerability of it, from the state's perspective.
Yeah, we can chat about that, yeah. Maybe you and I can look at that data.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? All right, so look for the maps next week.
Yes. So this link that I have included here, it's password protected, so that it's just for you guys right now, because I wanted to discuss with the town before we release the results to the public how we might want to do that. So this should update as more responses come in. Okay.
So we got the postcard and we got the flyer. This one you just scan. This one you could scan or go to the website, right? The flyer.
Yes.
And you're free to put these around and give to people and encourage people.
I am so sorry, I don't know why the password is not working. This is
Yeah, this is, we are on TV, so you're going to show public results is okay, or what are you showing?
Yeah, no, it's okay to
Show some of the
display,
results.
but yeah, the password's not working anyways, so.
Maybe you can just tell us kind of
Yeah,
what it says.
I'll give you a quick
Synopsis.
overview verbally. So we have close to 100 responses right now, and it's only been out for a week, so that's really good. I think of the municipal surveys we've done over the last year, the highest count was probably in the 400s by the end of the survey. So with this rate, I think Newmarket's on track to probably have the highest response rate thus far, so that's exciting. And a couple of questions that I can remember seeing the results for. One of them asked about how important is it to protect open space to you, and I would say about 90% of people said it was extremely important, or I think the other one was very important. So it's clearly a priority to folks. Another one of the questions, which I was excited to see, was about should new developments include sustainable design, and that has very high support from the current responses. And as this is not part of open space, but in terms of housing, no surprise, folks are feeling the pressure in the housing market and are looking for more affordable housing options. But from what I can remember, the distribution is actually not, I was expecting to see, affordable housing and then the rest of the housing types, but it looks like there's a little bit of distribution in desires from residents and types of housing. And that is really all I can remember off the top of my head, so I'm really sorry I can't give you a better update, but as I send you the maps next week, I'll also send a dashboard with a working password, and I'll send you the password so that you can see. And I pulled all of the open space and riverfront questions into the dashboard, so it's not the housing stuff, it's just questions focused on this chapter for you. And yes, I distributed the posters to you all, and we've got some postcards there. So the QR code that is on those is specific to those materials. So we'll be able to tell which participants came from distributing these materials versus clicking a link off Facebook or clicking a link off the town website. So that's another way we'll be able to track sort of how is best to communicate with residents.
Are people able to do both? Would that skew data? Like if someone's goes in and does the survey on Facebook and then the next day finds a postcard?
Yeah, I suppose I would think that those would probably be more limited cases, so I don't think that would skew the data as much. Usually, we can see when someone stops the survey and then comes back to it.
So it's not linked to an email address or anything like that?
What do you mean by email?
No, just to show that somebody doesn't vote twice, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can tell if it's one person that's responding to the survey, if that makes sense, yeah. Yeah, so it would, I would be able to tell, it does a geolocator, or not geolocator, but yes, there's a unique identifier for tracking where that response came from electronically. Higher than my pay grade how that works, but yes, I can tell if someone is completing the response, the survey multiple times, that one person. So we'd be able to eliminate those multiple responses. Yeah, there are definitely quality assurance checks built into the survey platform. So yeah, I will look forward to sharing the results more in depth with you all. This next slide is the current chapter outline. And I'll note that this outline is, firstly, it's very drafty because we're still working on thinking about how we want to present the information. But secondly, the open space plan as it exists now is very different from how this outline is structured. And also considering that we're going to possibly pull in some other elements like water resources, we'll want to think about how we adapt this outline to fit this particular group of chapters or group of resources. This is the color palette that the town is already using. So this is the color palette that we'll primarily go with for all of the marketing materials, all of the plan itself, and then potentially adding in a warmer color for design elements, just to make it more balanced and interesting. And this is just stylistic stuff for people working on the chapter to note. So this is what it would look like when you get to the first page of a new chapter. And again, this is in Word format, so it will look a lot more pretty, I guess, once it's in PDF format or online format. But we'll talk about a brief description of the outreach process for each particular chapter, because there will be different events catered to each chapter or section of chapters, and a summary of what the outcomes of those were to start. And then we'll go into sort of the first 5 to 10 themes or trends that we're seeing in this particular chapter. So in terms of open space, once we get the results of the outreach and engagement, we'll see what are people thinking about open space, how are they using it, what are the trends in recreation related to open space, things like that, and we'll be able to kind of pull together those trends into these different sections. And this is housing example, so obviously a little different. And then we'll have sort of quotes and other design elements speaking to the different themes of the chapter. So I know some that have been mentioned are regional coordination, resilience, age friendliness. So how do those things relate to open space and natural resources? And then we'll obviously include some different charts and data elements to make it interesting. And these will all be situated in a way where they're full size on the page, so that it's easy to read and it is an accessible design for screen readers and folks who are have difficulty with vision. And then at the end of each chapter, we'll have the goals and then the actions to meet those goals, or recommendations as it's written in the current plan. And that will just be a quick summary for each chapter, and then, as I said, we'll have a full implementation chapter in itself that speaks to how to meet those goals and how to actually implement those actions. There's so many blank pages there, but that's kind of the outline. I know it is quite skeletony, but this is just, we're in the conceptualized stage. So seeing that, any first thoughts, reactions, concerns, questions?
Not till we see what's written.
Yeah, when there's actual content, it'll be a lot easier to comment on. Next is logos and branding. So I'll note these are screenshots, so if they look a little funky, that is why. Again, certainly not final products.
So this is for the overall master plan process?
Yes, this is for the full master plan branding. So this is like something we would include on posters or postcards for like our next outreach and engagement activity, and including it in the plan itself, and things like that.
Like the eel in the middle.
Yes. These iterations are all thanks to Lindsay and Bart's great ideas. And then these are some other sort of iterations. I believe those are the only 4 that I include. Oh, no, there's one more. Not really bad. Yeah, so those are the couple that we're looking at right now, and we haven't really discussed yet thoughts on them. I don't know if you have any initial reactions, Bart, that you'd like to share, but.
Yeah, so just some thought process of what you're seeing. So it's kind of the cog itself. It's it honors the industrial past of Newmarket, and then below it is the rivers. So obviously the middle is the Lamprey. So it's kind of that's the Lamprey River, Eel, Lamprey, and then also Piscassic and Moonlight Brook. So kind of that, and then the idea. So conceptually, we try to minimal as possible and add a lot of symbology in there. So that's what we're trying to do. Like, we have an industrious past, it's moving forward, the cog, and then the water's helping us as well. So the water's life. So kind of, some symbology there. We had some others as well that were, there's a lot of people yet to run this through. So we're kind of running with this right now. We'll love ideas. If anyone has any. This is a collaborative process, so Brian.
Maybe just include like a square, like the middle building in the back.
Okay.
Or something, just to make it clear that that's part of the mill itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I like that.
The top one?
Yeah.
What, do you like the color? Do you think it should be a different color, like the eel, the lamprey?
I think that's an appealing color for me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a nice color. Yeah, I think those work together. Yeah, maybe, something like just a square, like, overhead brick building or something, just kind of showing like the downtown.
Okay. Anyone have any other ideas like that represents Newmarket? Looking for some inspiration. So, well, it's very welcome. If it's not right now, you don't have to. You can email as well. Happy to have your comments and thoughts on that. So, yeah. So, keep on working.
My only thought, I like it too, but it is a downtown-oriented theme.
Mm-hmm.
Since I live in the western suburbs, nice to think of something that would represent that, but
Okay.
I'm not a designer, so that's just not my strength. I do other things, but that's not it, so I'll leave that to other people. And I know some of them had the town of Newmarket name, but you decided not to.
Yeah, we're trying to,
Too much.
veer from any type of lettering at all. The idea, is, have more simple pictures that represent a lot of different things. So you pack a lot of meaning into time, whether it's colors or, simple objects. So that's what we're using as a formula. But again, it's a collaborative process, so we can definitely,
And this is being used for the report that's being put together, just to,
the whole process. So the report would have it, and also our marketing materials as
Okay.
well. And then my long-term idea is if it is really popular, maybe the town can, adopt it as well. So my idea is create something new that, was built through the community, really had a lot of part in this, and, if they want to continue with that symbol
yeah.
officially, then I think that'd be neat. So,
One other little comment that I put down in order to say one is the dam.
mm-hmm.
I don't think we already have like a water and then we have like people that want to, these are
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, and, I think you probably want to keep it as simple as you can, so it really just creates that image, and how much can you fit into that? But the dam is a big part of it as well, even though I would want to take it out, but.
I think what would be helpful, here's some homework assignment for you all. Top 5 words that represent Newmarket. Ideas, things. That might help us drive this.
Okay, good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could be a word, could be a symbol.
Just
could
word,
be a-
just give us,
Yeah.
give us top
Sounds
5
good.
things that
There we go.
you like about Newmarket or represent Newmarket.
Yeah.
And then that will give us some material to work.
So maybe we can put together a quick, one question survey for all the boards.
Yeah, and then maybe, I'm not sure if it's too late, but also for the community as well.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, I don't want to interrupt the survey at all, but anyways,
Maybe, yeah.
for this
We'll think
committee,
on that.
commission, please, by the next meeting.
One cool thing might be to like send whatever survey you do to the school. So
Yeah.
the kids, or, we're supposed to, they're open town stuff might be able to put in there.
Yeah, we're definitely looking to, the school district a lot on this whole process, so.
When are you planning on having this, like, decided and completed?
Not anytime soon.
Well, the only reason I ask is because we're doing the same thing with the 300 committee.
Right, yeah.
So we've got, basically an open call out to the town for submissions for logo ideas and things like that. So
Okay.
I'm wondering if, maybe when it comes down to it, if there's some way to sort of combine them or
Yeah,
give them some sort of similar elements so they work together.
I really like that idea. I think we should, utilize our resources in different events.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic
Yeah.
idea.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
yep.
I would definitely love to work with you on that. I think that's a great idea. And I believe, you sent out the presentation, right? This one to the group, or no? Okay. Well, I'll send it out afterwards so that you can all have the links to these different documents. Yeah, I did, yeah. Just one. All right, and then the last slide here is your homework, but you can cross off that first piece of homework, lightening your load, and just promote the survey. Tell your friends, tell your family, let them know. And then next week I will send you the maps, and it would be ideal if you could review them before our next meeting. And then I'll also send, like I mentioned, the survey results and password for that.
Can you also, just so it's easier to provide, I don't know how the current master plan, are there links for each chapter, hyperlinks for each chapter? So that maybe you could send us all the links to the 3 chapters that exist. I mean, not the open space plan, well, you can, but that's like a different thing. But the water resources, there's already a water resources, there's a natural resource one too, right?
So if you go to the planning board's webpage, the town website, on the left-hand column there, you can find the master plans. If you want a quick way to get there, on the front page of the town website, there's a link to the survey. Click on that, and then at the bottom, there's another hyperlink saying, click here to see the current master plans.
Okay.
And then
So maybe folks could you should probably look at the existing water resources and existing natural resource chapter just to get a sense of what the existing one says, much like we've gone through the open space plan a little bit.
Yeah, and when I reach out to you all next week, I'll try to provide a little more context on the discussions behind the scene of how we're going to move forward with the next chapters after we hear back from the planning board. Still discussing that first. But that is all I have for you today, and these are your good and gracious contacts for this chapter. Me, myself, ascott@stratford.org. Please email me with any thoughts, questions, concern at any time. And Jackson is our mapper, who is ill right now, but he is also always open to emails. So if you have a thought, question, concern, please feel free. That's all I've got. Yeah. So thank you all for having me again. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to reaching out next week.
Thanks, Autumn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other things on your end, Bart? Moment.
I have an item to discuss, but
Later? Okay. Very good. All right, we'll move along. Town council report. Brian?
Yep, the parking study from 2009 was sent to the Stratford Regional Planning Commission. And let's see, we passed that reheating station just got an ARPA grant for $500,000 to improve the wastewater treatment plant. And we leased land from the NCDC on Gaming Road for parking, where the little coffee shack used to be.
Oh,
Yeah, so now that area is going to be used for parking for the town.
Right.
In perpetuity, is that, or is it short term?
Hopefully we might have plans for the place in the future, but this doesn't represent that. But it does mean in the meantime, we're still figuring it out. One thing we're thinking about doing is maybe some overnight passes and such. But yeah, we have a lease on it, I guess, for at least for next year, maybe longer.
Was it already paved over? I live around the corner and it looked like I saw parking lines on it, but I can't tell if they paved it or not.
I'm not sure. I'm not that they recently. This was in 2015.
It did not look paved
It
when I
didn't
saw
look-
it. It was
yeah.
striped, but not
Something
paved.
we have to get done, I guess.
back to the sewage treatment. So is the idea that there's the pump station where the haulers, that's going to get closed down and all that is going to move to the actual wastewater treatment plant? Is that what's happening?
Partially.
Okay. This is right down to
Yeah.
downtown, if anybody knows where, it's right next to
The
Shannon
town
Park.
has historically received septage at the Creighton Street pumping station next to Shannon Park. With the upgrades to the wastewater plant, the primary septage receiving will be moving up there. I think they are still going to take septage at Creighton Street, potentially seasonally. The facility itself is going to remain, though. It still is an active collection system and pumping station from really the core downtown area up to the wastewater plant. So it is still an integral facility to the collection system.
But the pumper trucks are not going to go there, they're going to start going to the...
It sounds like the majority will go up to the plant once septage is relocated. But it doesn't sound like septage is going to be removed in its entirety from the pump station either.
Okay.
Also, we got a grant for $70,000 to address the bacteria load in Moonlight Brook with 100% forgiveness. So it's not a grant, but we basically were told by the state that we would be reimbursed fully for the amounts. So, but yeah, they'll be to just look at the bacteria load at Moonlight Brook.
Is that to continue with UNH, or that's a different study that is going to be
It's
farmed out to somebody else?
It's a different thing. It's a more robust study.
Yeah.
I think an IDDE study, illicit discharge removal.
Don't recall. So I was not able to attend the most recent town council meeting, so this is all stuff from the one before that. So my memory is a bit hazy, but yeah, I believe so. Yes. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Brian? Any questions for Brian? All right. Planning board, Jeff?
I was not at the planning board meeting, so I don't know if Bart could help me out a little bit again. Thanks, Bart. Yes. At the last planning board meeting, there was 2 applications. One was a continuation of a public hearing for the 30-unit elderly affordable housing unit on South Main Street. So ultimately that was approved. The update from the applicant was it stayed 30 units, did an architectural redesign based on the previous meeting's deliberation with the planning board and public and whatnot. So they came back with a revised plan showing what was conceptually agreed upon at the November meeting. They voluntarily restricted the age requirement to 62. So before it was proposed at 55 plus. And so HUD, federal housing, allows you 2 instances to discriminate age-wise, is 55 plus or 62. The 62, the property owner can say, you have to be 62, cannot be any younger. So one of the major concerns by butters was that if it was 55 plus, a family member doesn't necessarily have to be 55 plus.
Doesn't necessarily have to what?
Have to be 55 plus. So for instance, it was someone that had a child they're, 57, but they still have a child there, they can live with them. But, if you have the 62 age approach, you can limit the age at 62, all residents. So the applicant voluntarily decided to go that way. And those are the majors. Yes, yeah,
And
there's
is
some
that-
landscaping elements there that was maintained and added.
What's the plan for the wetlands in there? I mean, it's pretty wet in there.
They're totally outside the buffers in the wetlands. So the lot is going to be subdivided in 2 lots. One's to keep where the single-family home is, its own lot, and then the other is going to have the development plus the parking facility.
Side by side or front and back?
So the house stays, and then it goes, it's kind of a longer house, so, the development, so it's not parallel, it's perpendicular. The
Okay.
new, yeah.
Yeah.
So they designed it in a way like a colonial farmhouse, how some of them are really long, so you have
Yeah.
like the big house in front, and then smaller house, and then kind of like the barn
Yeah.
house, so it may look like that.
Okay,
That part.
that's nice at least.
Yeah.
What's the traffic plan there? Is there gonna be a light in there?
No light, no. So they did a traffic study, it was peer reviewed, and what was proposed was found to be accurate, so there won't be any negative impact. So they're adding striping for sidewalks to
Yeah.
connect across the street, they're adding sidewalks to the development on that side. And it was found that there was going to be some clearing as well, maintained clearing, so as you know, people come from Epping. So the line of sight is maintained in a safe manner. So it was all peer reviewed.
Is there any chunk of land in the back that's not developed, where the
Yeah.
more wet areas is?
It cannot be further developed back there.
And who's gonna, how's that gonna be managed, or is it just gonna sit there?
It'll basically sit there.
So it's the corporation that runs the
Yep.
facility will
Yep.
be in
So
charge?
I imagine they probably won't really do anything out back at all. It's just the stormwater infrastructure and parking lot and the house. I mean, there's definitely opportunities. I think the commission wants to think about working with the landowner for maintenance.
Or do nothing might be fine.
I don't know.
Do nothing sounds
I don't
good.
know. Any other questions? I know you weren't there.
Yeah, I'm going to recuse from the discussion,
Yeah.
so now that it's approved, I can ask a
Yeah.
question. What happens if it doesn't produce income for the person that did the development?
It's deed restricted. It has, so say for instance, they want to change it to market rate. They would have to get variances from the town because they're over density limit significantly. So, yeah, so they have to go back to the town, ask for variances, and then, let's say hypothetically they get it, they have to go to planning board for a site plan amendment. That would be the path.
They also put in an additional fence behind the berm, behind big trees to cut out headlights when you get in the houses across the street. When they're in the parking.
Right, landscaping elements. That was that. And then the second item was the first time the board have seen this is on Railroad Street. The applicant is proposing a 41-unit building on 3 Railroad Street. Planning board accepted the application and they sent it to technical review committee for further review. So what that is, if people aren't familiar, it's town departments, the town's peer review engineers, and then the applicant's team come together and they review all the technical aspects of it. So they try to get everything ready for the planning board to further review. So we try to answer all the questions or any issues we try to solve before the board further reviews the application. So that was scheduled, and then the public hearing was continued to the February meeting. Planning board.
What's the concept of those housing, those
Rental units.
Any age, I mean, that's not a restriction.
That is, I don't think so, no. I think it'll be market rate. So that application received variances from the zoning board. That's correct, yes. So it is mixed use. So currently there's, if if everyone knows the site where New England Barricade used to be. It's like this old railroad brick house. And then there's this, so it's 35 Railroad Street, and then Horizons Engineers, an engineering firm. That building will be torn down, and then they would move into the commercial aspect of that building. And that is it from the planning board. Any questions?
So Bart, I've never had a chance to jump on the town website to look at any of those.
Yeah.
Is it easy enough to find?
Yeah, so if you have, it should be, but sometimes it's hard. You go to the planning board, go to the meetings. There's two ways of doing this. One, you go to the planning board's webpage, left-hand side, there'll be agenda packets or agendas. Click on those and find the meeting that is being heard, those applications were heard, and then all the materials are there. Yep.
All right.
So there's two ways you can do both. So it's kind of a fail-safe. Sometimes the infrastructure doesn't work, so I like to put it in two places.
And
Give it a try.
Tim
Thanks.
posts all the town meetings to the conservation group on Facebook too. So if you're just looking for video of the meeting, you can go there too.
Just going back to the first project you were
Yes.
describing, what sidewalk work are they doing?
So there's an internal sidewalk on their property.
Yeah.
And they're bringing it out to perpendicular to the one across the street. So there'll be a crossing right there where the school is, where the school entrance is. They'll be on the west side.
Okay.
And then go utilizing that infrastructure.
And any chance of getting the corner made between the school and back around to Grant Road and Durrell? I know
think
DOT.
That's on our, no, I think we have that.
That's
Up
us.
to Grant.
Okay.
Is that urban compact, and I believe that's on our sidewalk plan.
Okay.
But
That'd be nice.
for this project, we did not make that a condition of approval. But it is on our minds.
Okay.
Yeah, that corner be sidewalk.
Seemed like the right area if people are going to be laying sidewalk to kick them across the street.
Definitely. That was one of the concerns too, through the whole project, is people walking the road. So they're worried about, those folks from the development walking the road further. And, so the applicant did provide a outlet to the existing sidewalk infrastructure for the people going in town. But not necessarily downtown. Yep, so it'll be like in downtown, the flashers, those will be installed. Any other questions?
All right, thanks, Bart.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Riverfront Advisory Committee, Shanda Park.
Yeah, fairly short update. Our primary topic this month was we invited DES to come back to our meeting. The same folks that had assisted with the Great Bay Living Shoreline project that looked at potentially implementing a living shoreline down in Shanda Park. So we asked them to come back, primarily because it's been like 18 months since that grant process ended, and it was mostly just an update of we're still here, we're still interested. The primary change on the town side is that project predated having Bart having a town planner, community developer, and Lindsay a town engineer. So it was mostly just we have dedicated staff. There's still a real interest here, kind of reestablishing that line of communication. So that was kind of this month's focus. So good for us. I'm not sure there's much else to report, honestly, though.
Did they say anything?
Still supporting. They understand these projects are kind of tough to get off the ground because they require significant investment to do that. You kind of have to sell people on the idea of it. It was nice to hear that the visioning of Wagon Hill in Durham took like 10 years. Made me feel a little bit better at the pace we've been moving. He did say something interesting. Apparently there's going to be like a phase 2 of Wagon Hill.
Yeah, they got funded for phase
Yeah, so I'm not going to even attempt to say more than that because I'm not going to get it right, but that was the first time I had heard of it.
I think it's bigger than the first one, so.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like significantly bigger, so. kind of neat. Outside of that, I don't think I have all that
Are
much.
you guys involved in the Moonlight Brook, this grant, or?
Not really. We've kind of stepped back from being involved with Moonlight Brook for the time being. The town's not grant, I think they call them 100% reimbursable loans, which is really straightforward. But a part of that project is looking for illicit discharges, connections to the stormwater system that shouldn't be there. So as part of that focus and that work will be on looking at Moonlight Brook and trying to identify the bacteriological problems that are going to Moonlight Brook. So it's getting incorporated in part into that project. But now that we have a town engineer and one with us.
So Lindsay's sort of over.
Yeah,
overseeing
Lindsay's
it.
got a strong basis in stormwater management. It's in good hands, so we've kind of taken a back seat on that and left it at the town's discretion.
Great. We were supposed to be working on some signs, updated signs for not feeding the ducks. Anything happen with that?
We still have to figure out what we're going to tell people. So,
Do you want to talk, was it the health inspector?
yeah,
was
so
going to-
I think we're all on board that a sign can be there, and we all want a sign. It's just a question of what's going to say. So I know Ellen and I are in charge to working on that. I think once we figure out what that language is, we can put it up. I think we got town manager has said he's fine with it, and told code enforcement, as long as it's within the health officers,
Why don't we, a couple drafts or a draft and run it by the two, this one and Riverfront?
Yeah.
And just,
that would work, yeah.
I mean,
Did
more,
you say something about the state? Is the state, I thought you mentioned the state.
No, it's
Okay.
more, the state won't really do anything. It's not really
okay.
technically a public swimming area.
Yeah.
It is used by people, but not in that manner. Typically.
okay, so we'll put that, let's
So it's
put
not
that
like
on
a
an agenda for January and we'll try to
Yeah, let's do that.
do the draft.
Literally a sign that says, like, don't feed the ducks or something.
Yeah, well, it's
Exactly.
also like, there's more to it than that, not just the ducks, but it's also, advising people about the water quality there.
Trying
as
to,
well.
say something without saying,
Yeah,
like Brooks.
exactly.
Sort
So
of,
we're
yeah.
trying to be very mindful of a lot of different stakeholders and trying to accomplish, something, to inform people.
plus there's only one sign, we need to have another one, we need more than one sign, because
Yeah.
people aren't
And,
looking at it.
we do have that kiosk, so I think just a little more brainstorming, and then presenting something to the commission
Okay,
and the committee, Riverfront Advisory Committee.
Right.
It's gonna stand here.
yeah, we keep bringing you back.
Yeah.
The no dogs sign does not work.
Yeah, the no dog sign doesn't work either, yeah. Okay, anything else for Riverfront?
No, that's it.
Amanda? Okay, thank you. Other committee reports, energy and environment?
I unfortunately had COVID during our last meeting, so I didn't make it. But I did see 2 emails come in from Joe on the committee that Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire is in the midst of creating Newmarket's website. So there'll be more on that soon to be able to check that out. We also submitted our recommendations for the master plan on energy. So those got submitted. I did not get to be there for the voting of that. And then we just got a draft of a letter that will go out to residents late January about community power. And then by the end of the week, he said we should know electricity rates that we could be looking at. And then there will be an info session I saw scheduled for January 31st about community power. So trucking away on that. It sounds like it's looking good for 2024 for us to be joining. Yeah.
Nice. And that energy is a new chapter in the master plan, it didn't used to be one,
Yes.
so that'll be new.
Yeah, so that was a lot of our meetings were, we didn't want to have the planning board change too much, so we wrote out our recommendations and didn't spend too much time on that piece of it. But I know that in the past, the master plan said that we wanted to be energy independent by like 2030 and then completely renewable by 2050, but there was nothing in the plan on how to do that. So so the committee was undertaking how do we do that? So that's where our recommendations come in.
Anything else for Julie? Thank you. 300th committee?
Yeah, we met last night. We hammered out the grant agreement with the town, so we're going back to the town with that draft. And we still have an open call for logos. So if anybody in town is interested in submitting a logo for review and potential choice to be the logo for the event, we're happy to take those. So the Historical Society is taking those in if you wanted to submit there. And we're in the process of working out the board out of the volunteers that we have right now. And we're always open for more volunteers if anyone's ever interested. That's it.
Anything else for 300th committee? Okay. Looks like we need some design people in town.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can move on to, thank you, Bart. I think we're good if you want to hit the road.
Yeah, I have one more thing. I'm not sure what's
Yeah,
else on the
why don't you do it
agenda.
now?
Okay, so someone came into the office today, and she's considering, she's gone to different towns and just checking out to see if it's permitted use or not, but has anyone heard about green burial grounds?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. great.
So, I got a flyer here, I'm gonna pass it around. But this person's looking to see, exploring the areas around the seacoast to establish one. So, me and the code enforcement officer, we were, seeing if it was a permitted use to begin with, and we think it could be, but I'm not sure if it makes sense where the use is allowed in town. So, maybe there's opportunities if I think it'd be interesting, this commission had a discussion on that, just to hear their thoughts, your own thoughts, but, maybe, either create a new use or, and, really identify areas in town where we would like to see that. So, thoughts on that?
I think Durham, it might have been the same person, but Durham looked at it years ago. It might be something to run by. There's a New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission email exchange now, or whatever she calls it. That might be a good topic to see. Has any town adopted that in New Hampshire? I think Vermont.
I don't think so.
Maine has some, I think.
Yeah.
But you kind of need, we don't have a lot of space. You can't, I don't think you'd be able to do it on conserved land that was conserved through some state grant. Tom, what do you think about that in terms of like LCHIP or DES funded protected land? I'm not sure they would allow green burial.
Yeah, we've talked about it, but I don't have a feeling for the future of it. Certainly, people like the idea of it. People like LCHIP, they have to develop standards for what it'll be like. But I don't, certainly land that already has a conservation easement on it may not allow it.
Well, I think she was telling me that some of the newer easements out there, it's easier to do it than the more legacy ones.
There's a lot of people that would like to see this happen.
So I think it's maybe an interesting topic to explore.
Sure.
I'm not sure if the commission feels that way as well. But I figured I just introduce it, and if the commission thinks it's a good idea, then maybe Ellen and I can talk to this person a little more. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Presentation on them. It's not no harm having a presentation on green burials. It's
Yeah,
an interesting concept.
I don't know if you want that.
Is this person just interested citizen, or they have some background in it?
I think she works with, she says she's working with CELP, trying to identify parcels.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
so I think she's pretty serious, and, so again, she's looking at different towns, she's trying to understand the zoning aspect, if it's allowed use or not in different towns, so I was kind of, guiding her or giving her advice on that and how to do that, but again, I just thought it was a really interesting concept. So I thought I'd bring it to you all today.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Bart?
Yeah, sure.
On a different subject?
Yeah.
I was just curious if there's been any talk around town about that culvert on Ash Swamp Road that you,
I
Yeah.
actually talked, I can give you an update in terms of doing something about it.
yeah, or if the town has like a plan for management of it, because they do dig it out, like, I know you're not the DPW person. They dig it out like every other day.
I don't know about the
Same on my street too.
Yeah, so I don't,
have
so
for
both of
years now.
those, I've talked to Lindsay, our engineer, and Ash Swamp is like the top, everything we've looked at in terms of doing something to that road. It's at the top of the list for DPW and apparently for the state Fish and Game.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for the transportation funding, I think?
Yeah, we did, so that, and then I think there's some capital improvement plan money as well.
Yeah, so there'd be an assessment and, really looking at what to do and doing something. And she thinks that would be fully funded.
Presumably that will take years, right?
Right, so in the short term,
Just to dig it out every other day.
I'm not sure.
yeah, they're doing that on,
We do.
Yeah, they come down my road every morning.
yeah, that one's number 2 for me,
Yeah.
that one.
Like
so.
I don't know, we have brought up like to try a beaver deceiver or something. It's got to be cheaper than sending a DPW crew every other day or so. I mean, sometimes it's once a week, but it's guaranteed almost once a week. I know I brought that up to DPW years ago. And
Yeah.
it was not.
I thought about that too, because I see the beaver there right after they clear it out every day.
It's like the
Well, you should see the saga on it if you've been on the rail trail.
Oh,
There's a
gosh, yeah,
massive
yeah.
saga there, we won't go into it.
Yeah.
I've,
running in the dark through standing on it.
I got some issues with what they've done out there, but anyway, why don't we, there's a guy from Vermont Skip, who is supposed to be very good, and he does
Skip
the
from Vermont.
beaver deceivers.
Yeah, I've seen them
And we could invite him
up
to give
there.
a talk or
Yeah.
even come. And,
I think we did that once.
did you have him come?
We had someone give a presentation about it, or came in and talked about it, but it wasn't really looked at as an option by DPW at the time. Maybe they've changed heart on it or something. I just didn't know.
Well, we
I
would
mean,
probably
I do
have-
know that every time they dig it out, the water level drops like 2 feet, and then the beaver's like, I need more stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the beaver goes and gets more stuff,
Yeah.
brings it
Exactly.
in. So it's like I don't mind the beaver on my property, like I said 100 times, but like, they're gonna keep going back for more material if the material gets taken away every couple of days.
Build their lot.
That thing is like working around the clock every day, like, which is whatever, but it's kind of cruel to the animal.
Yeah.
Did,
That's the way I view it.
It's gonna be a rough winter
Did
for
the
them.
person actually look at that site to see if it would work there?
No, I thought they talked about beaver deceivers in general.
But they didn't go out in the field and look at,
No.
I
Or
think we
someone
should have
presented materials, one or the other. I can't remember if one of the commission members talked about person in Vermont.
Yeah.
Or if that person from Vermont actually spoke to us. Because it was before we would have had a Zoom call and, this
well,
was like
maybe it's we just have to
2012.
have him go look at those 2 sites and see if he thinks they would work.
Yeah.
We would probably have to pay him to do that, so we'd have to think about whether we wanted to do that. It wouldn't be that much to have him come over.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Skip, I don't remember his last name.
I was saying, it's got to cost the town money every time the crew goes out for that
imagine, yeah.
specific purpose.
So should we,
It's essentially you put a pipe in and then you have some fencing out in the water so the beaver can't get to the pipe and clog it up. It allows the water level to drop, but the beaver can still be there. So it kind of fakes them out.
They-
Well, they're already angry. They're angry.
Yeah.
so should we, you want to contact this hip fella, or should we just go back to DPW, see if there's any plan in the interim?
No, I didn't know if there was. Yeah, I certainly think it would be a good idea. Yeah, contact. I'll look that up if you.
You want to
if
look up
you
Skip?
have time.
Okay. Do you want to ask Lindsay if she thinks
Yep.
that would be a good idea to bring somebody in to look at that? For both Ash Swamp and Mill Mill, if that's a problem there.
Do you think as a speaker or potentially?
Well, I think it's action. I like action. Go out and look at the site, see if he thinks it would work, and then if it would, who pays for it?
Okay. I'll see if I could, if he's truly somewhere in Vermont,
Yeah.
hours away, I'll see if
Yeah.
photos can start it.
Yeah.
Yeah, be good.
I've got a video of the beaver if he wants to. From my horse.
There's a new journalist, Ben Goldfarb, who's written a book called Eager. It's a very new book. It's about beavers. It's about beavers around the country, and he writes about all this stuff and the people that do beaver deceivers and help beavers. And he was, I don't know if he was a beaver skeptic, but he became to think, beavers are amazing. They're incredible animals, and we need them, and we need to be able to figure out how to live with them and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, because they're not, been there for 16 years, regardless of all the efforts the town has gone through to remove them or remove the dams. It's a large interconnected water system over there, and they're either over by the rail trail, or they're there, or they're down toward Piscasset.
I'd like to know how many there are, like in total.
Territorial, I think, so
Yeah.
there's like a 2-mile radius
Yeah.
between,
Okay.
or we call it kids.
No, they're trapping them on the rail trail. Anyway, I won't go into that.
Okay.
I'll get mad. Okay, thank you, Bart.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you, Bart.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can move on to conservation easement monitoring. Tom, do you want to give any updates on,
Sure.
or ask people to give updates?
Well, we're just wrapping. To wrap up the Bald Hill, and Smith.
So David couldn't do it, so I've been trying to get it scheduled. So I'm going out tomorrow, and I'm going to meet Parker from Audubon, and he's going to walk a little bit of the boundary with me.
Okay.
So I'll do that tomorrow.
Other than that, I think everything's in. We're still, when I've got everything in, I'll get everything scanned. I still have chat about L-chip submission of the monitoring report. I don't assume that'll be a problem. So L-chip wants monitoring reports, but now they want you to use their online portal, and they're expecting CELT to do.
Oh, I didn't know that part. They have an online portal for submissions?
Yes. Yeah, and that's why when I sent the report into Ben Engel, he wasn't doing anything with it. And then when you and I did emails with him, he was trying to figure out if he needs to change that. He has CELT as being the people who have to submit the report. So he's got them as the ones to put it on the portal. But the ones that we have to submit, we're going to have to submit them.
So this is, so Piscasset River Loisel is L-chip funded, or was funded, so that they get the report every year. And when the town, so we own the town owns the land, and we also monitor the easement, which is a little funky, but this is the way L-chip kind of operates. So we actually get $400 a year back from L-chip for submitting the monitoring report. Now, Gaziano, if you recall, we ended up having to hold the easement because the Attorney General said, no, L-chip can't hold the easement. We have to hold it. CELT owns it. We hold the easement. So I did the monitoring, and for 2 years, we've sent the report. Or this year I had Tom send the report. If CELT is the one who sends the report, they'll get the $400.
Right, well, so that's what we need to talk to
CELT.
CELT. I still don't understand if we're holding the easement,
Yeah, he's got that, he needs to change.
why is it that CELT is submitting it, so,
Right, I think he needs to change that portal. If you can
okay.
convince him to do that, and we would get, presumably, another $400.
But I know, he talked about who would the contact be with the town, but I don't see why you or I couldn't get the ability to submit it.
Yeah, if you can work on that, that would be awesome.
So so it's Bald Hill and Smith Sisters, but anyway, everything's wrapping up, and once everything's in, I'll get everything scanned, and I'll get reports sent off to who needs to get them. And what are the properties that go to the water?
Smith Sisters.
Smith Sisters.
That's the only one that we have to send. The state is supposed to send Wigan Farm.
Oh, for Wigan.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
do
Wigan
that. We
Farm.
don't. We don't.
So we don't need to worry about that. Steve Walker's doing it. That's all. Anyway, thank you all for getting the reports back in, and I'll look forward to getting. Great.
And you sent the, there was an issue with Bald Hill. Did you go out?
I'm gonna go out tomorrow, actually. I missed
Yeah, let me
walking
know
with
what you
Julie.
think about it. I don't really know if, what,
Well, Sitzell would need to go out and talk to
I think so, yeah.
check it out
seems
again.
like some encroachment, but I think
Again.
it should be.
But that's not the landowner, no. And so Salt has to
Yeah,
deal
Salt
with
will
that.
go, yeah, we don't.
And I had not heard back from Chad.
They've already, we need to let them do it because it's complicated. Or it shouldn't be. but
Well, that's their
it is.
property.
Yeah.
Great, all right, yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Tom, for coordinating.
Yep.
I'll shoot you an email after.
Yeah, that'd be great, yeah, thank you.
Nothing really on land stewardship that we haven't talked about. Still have Wigan Farm, the kiosk and stuff is, work on that this winter. Sliding Rock we talked about. I'm trying to find I have another idea for someone to look at the ramp and the boat ramp and the erosion. Tom Bellastaro from UNS has his own company and I'm going to email and see if they would take a look at it. And Falls Brook, we've talked about doing a recon, which haven't had time yet, but we'll let people know when, yeah. Be good to get out
You
there.
may not get any snow.
I know. Snow free.
Did you compile anything on that yet? Maps?
No, but I will because I want to ask you about what we might need for survey. Do it.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I've done work out there.
Yeah, Carolyn Drive is,
We never like produced like something recordable that you find at the
Yeah.
registry as far as I know. So
okay.
just being internal stuff.
Yeah, all right, I'll put a spreadsheet together for you. And you can look at that. Anything else on land stewardship that anybody's seen or wants to report? Okay, other projects, Boulder Drive, there we go.
Boulder Drive. Well, Melissa and Paul and I went out the other day just to get another kind of evaluation of the trail. And I think jointly, all three of us being, abutting landowners, if you will, are feeling like it makes sense to keep it a fairly, low-key trail. And one of the questions that came up in our discussion is how, the Conservation Commission really, do we have anything to do with that trail? No responsibility.
We're not listed in the deed or anything, it's just listed as, it's not even, I don't even think, is it the town? It's a town right away, but I don't think it's assigned to any particular entity.
Yeah, it's open space, there's proof during the subdivision process, there'll be some sort of trail there.
Yeah. But-
So
But
in their
who's
deed,
responsible for that, though?
I
So if someone just goes on the trail and trips and breaks their ankle, who's
I'll
liable?
look in further, but I don't think that's a town land,
Yeah.
town land at all.
Okay.
Unless we
It's on their
adopted
land.
it.
Okay.
so it is their land, it is their responsibility for essentially the safety of allowing people to walk across that land. And I don't know if they know that. Is it deeded public then?
So I have to look into that.
I'm
See-
sorry?
I have to look into that and see what exactly the whole subdivision process, how it was approved, and see if there's anything else on the registry of deeds that did any sort of conveyance.
Yeah, that'd be great to know before we go any further. I have met with the new HOA president. It changed hands this summer. And the new, his name is Jeff, and he's very supportive of the trail. But I'm not sure he really knows what their responsibility is. So I think we need to just identify that with him. So the three of us looked at it, determined, what I had reviewed with the new HOA director. They're very supportive of what we originally looked at with Brian, who is the old HOA coordinator. And I think they're ready to see anything that we want to do to it happen, and a little anxious about it. So I think, I don't know if we have a budget for it. Like, I submitted that, budget before about stone and potential wood chip and stuff like that. So, if it's something that we're really not going to get involved with, I think we need to let them know and put it back in their hands. So, because right now, I think their thought is it's the Conservation Commission that's responsible for doing it. So if we want to step back from that, then I think it becomes more, myself as
Private citizen.
yeah, a walker, if you will, then, we could volunteer some time to go out and do it for them, but assume no responsibility from the Conservation Commission. So I think that's an important component before we move forward with it. He is very concerned about the fence that's encroaching onto their property, and emailed me recently about, or texted me recently about, making sure that that gets out of there. So again,
Yeah, just, that's
That's a
not our
private-
responsibility
It's not our
whatsoever.
responsibility.
Yeah.
and I did put him in touch with the landowner who, previous to this new landowner buying the property, that fence was put up. So the existing landowner, is that his responsibility then to take that fence out of there? I don't know how that would
I
work.
think,
Yeah.
the property owner where the fence is on can take it out immediately.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Property owner, the HOA could remove it immediately if it's on their
Then
land.
it would be their responsibility.
Right, but I'm not sure
If it's on their land.
if it's on their land, can remove it.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'll wait to hear from you about that.
Depending how
part.
long I go, I don't know, Jeff, I think this is more of your bailiwick. Depending how long that fence was there,
Potentially.
yeah. So it could be adverse possession case.
So you're saying that a new landowner that bought the property where they had put it up,
Hypothetically,
That can continue from owner to owner. Adverse possession doesn't have to be a single owner.
I think both parties are in favor of removal, though.
yeah, they are, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we had talked about
But no
before,
one's paid for
just
it.
all getting together
That's exactly it.
and take it down and see if the only help would be maybe DPW can take it to the metal recycling, or somebody could take it to metal recycling. But it's not, none of that out there is town responsibility or it's not a town entity at this point, because we have never, no, the town's never adopted that as a trail, and if we did, it would be a public trail, and it would not be a neighborhood trail. It would have to be a public trail on a map. So if people prefer it as a local trail, I think it should probably just stay as your neighborhood trail, rather than,
Well,
I
maybe,
don't recall discussion of, because when that was put in, I don't recall discussion of us developing a trail there, because we were involved in the subdivision process.
That's what I say, do you remember any conversations?
About building a trail, no. The only conversations I recall having is going out there when they were clearing, they had cleared into some of the open space and taken a couple of trees that they shouldn't have. And went out there, code enforcement officer looked at that. I do not recall discussions of the Conservation Commission putting a trail in or maintaining a trail, or the town putting a trail in. Maintaining a trail. We did talk about the connectivity to town in the open space in the back there by the pond. Where that strange, is that the strange fence that you're talking, is it that
Yeah.
weird?
The green.
Yeah, it's like tall.
Yeah,
It's
green
been there-
wired
It's been there
fence.
since that subdivision was put
Yep.
in.
yeah.
It's been there for a while. But,
So from your recollection, it was more for the residents to use, connect to
get to
Lamprey
town.
Street?
right,
Or-
to get from the
Okay.
subdivision to the town, not to get necessarily from people down the road.
Right, it's for the residents to use.
Yeah, they can walk.
So does open space, if that's what it was deeded as, is that public access?
It can depend.
So it doesn't automatically allow for public access?
Yeah, I'd have to see
I don't think it does.
The
I
document.
remember reading it. I think the only public is that trail where you already have a
It could
neighborhood
be.
trail. And I
Open
think
space for the benefit
that's
of
sort of
the
is my
development.
recollection too, that it was for the people that lived there, so they would have a complete trail. And then other people could use it, but,
Something similar would be over at Shannon Drive, right?
Right, yeah.
Because the Salt Trail goes on to their open space. Is that true?
I'd double check that, I don't know, off the top of my head.
There's also open space around Lady Slipper,
Yeah.
and there's not public out there using that I know of, or trail systems, but I know the Salt Trail cuts into Shannon Drive, right? And goes
well,
to
it
the-
stops. It happens at the Shanda community has a trail and they're letting people use it.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know, if that trail,
I don't
once you
think
get
it's
into
required.
Shannon,
I think they could close it if they wanted to, but,
they could.
you know, I don't think they desire
Salt
to.
doesn't have an agreement where, hey, we're gonna maintain the trail through here.
No.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was kinda curious about,
Yeah.
if Salt had a interest.
Well, I
The
think
town has
I'll-
no interest in that, and that's on open space, I believe.
Yeah.
I think the next step, Bart, we'll hear from you on that. And then I can schedule a meeting with the new HOA president and Melissa, if you want to be a part of that, that might make sense, and Paul too, if you wanted to be. And then by the next meeting, hopefully, we can bring it back to the commission and let you know where we are.
Great. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pathways for People in Nature. Just again, we had that webinar last Friday, and we were able to share what, our ideas of what we're working on in Newmarket, the master plan, our open space planning, and so forth. And so I think we can, that Pathways, the flyer, and I'll send you some things. We can actually give that to Autumn, and she might be able to incorporate some of the ideas we have in there, because we have goals and
Yeah, into
some
that
kind of
chapter.
action stuff, so
Agreed.
we can have that incorporated. Yeah, are there anything else on the project or other stuff?
The one thing, you had asked if I'd go out and take the leaves off.
Oh,
Heron
yeah.
Point, the
Heron Point,
boardwalk up
yeah.
there. And I don't know whose responsibility the boardwalk is.
Yeah, it's ours.
It is?
Well, yeah,
Because we really should go in and do some work, because it's really beginning to rot, some of that wood. Because of the way the leaves and the soil and
yeah,
so
I know,
on
that's
are
right, yeah.
packaged in there. So, I mean, obviously, we're not gonna get to it this winter, but maybe in the spring, we should go
Right.
out and take a look at it.
So DPW does help with the repairs, like they'll do some repairs, so maybe we could evaluate it and see if it's stuff they can do, or if we need to farm it out to somebody, a contractor.
Yeah, I think with a little bit of work,
think
we
it's a
can
work
prevent
day
a lot of
Maybe
the
work day
rot.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
What did you say?
I said, I think it's a workday thing.
Yeah.
Shore it up.
He showed me, actually, yeah, I think
Okay.
it's just digging trenches basically on
Okay.
either side.
Keep the
certain
water
parts of
off
it,
it.
just to keep the
Yeah,
water
okay,
off.
yeah, it sounds like it's something we can do. Okay.
Yeah, happy to monitor that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for doing that, 'cause that's great.
Speaking of trails, the Piscataqua-Zell Trail was leaf blown. So I don't know what the current commission's perspective is on leaf blown trails.
Not supposed to do it.
Yeah, it was leaf blown,
Where?
partially onto the,
What part of the trail?
I believe all of it.
Yeah, it
All
happened
of
last year too, I don't know.
Yeah.
Discuss it, was it?
And onto the, onto the, what do you call it, onto Autobahn a little ways. And then they
Up the hill there?
Up the hill.
Yeah.
And then it stopped, and then,
I want to,
They did it last year too, I think.
it had been done in the past. And
I know they do it out at Sliding Rock.
I think it's, in the past, we kind of had an idea of who it was. I didn't know if next year maybe a sign fall or something, I don't know. I think it's, I think folks at trail run do not like leaves covering the rocks.
And they're slippery, but they're not supposed to do it. Yeah, I know Exeter Conservation Commission used to put up signs in the
Yeah.
Oaklands about not
I
leaf
hate
blowing.
over signage.
I know,
It's like,
I know,
I really shouldn't be doing that. It's not great for the trail.
yeah.
It's great for running on it. It's not great for the trail.
All right.
I've been up to Sliding Rock, and when someone's gone out and leaf blown all the pine straw.
Really?
Yeah, large, I mean, like 6, 8 feet wide
Oh, wow.
trail legal. I can't imagine the noise. Jeez.
It's like clean at Wiscasset too. I mean, it was bare.
I haven't been out there in a couple of weeks.
Maybe they're running so fast, you know. Yeah.
That's why Mercury. That's why they always had no leaves on them either, right? Get rid of all
That's
the
right.
trees.
Yeah, all right. We'll have to do some signs and some other stuff, however we reach people in town.
We put Jeff in a tree there. Hey.
Well, I feel
No leaf
bad
blowing.
bringing it up.
Get a deer stand there.
Yeah.
That'd be good. I need that request. Actually, to bring it up, I need to request a
Oh, yeah, the
report.
turtle research, we need to get that data.
Yeah, I forgot to ask her for it.
All right, moving along, it's almost 9. Events. January 8th, you got this flyer in your email, so if people are interested, you can sign up. Should be fun at the Nature
Do
Conservancy
we
office.
have to sign up?
Yes, people have to sign up because there's going to
So
be
we're
limited
taking-
space. So you can send me an email if you want to come and how many people you want to bring. That would be great. And thinking about some Earth Day stuff, could be Sliding Rock, could be the work at Heron Point.
Yeah.
We could have several different work days around Earth Day, but I think that would be a good idea. And we might be able to install the Wigan Farm kiosk around then too, and the new sign. So we've got a bunch of stuff we could be doing around Earth Day. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you.